Ed Plan SC updates. Katie, if you want to come on camera,
All right.
I'll get
Good
your first
afternoon,
slide up here.
everyone. All right. So the first thing I have is that we added a second date for power user training. We did one earlier this month in May. And so we know that as people adjust and change roles and you have new hires coming on, that there might be a need for this. So there will be one July 23rd at Voc Rehab. There's a registration link. And then we'll look at doing another one if needed. I'm thinking like early fall, like September, once the dust settles after the summer. And so if you know, like you're going to have somebody new that needs this training, but maybe they're not hired yet or something's unofficial, you can always just register yourself. And then when you go to, when you have that person's information, let me know and I can change it in the system. We're trying to keep like seating to like 25, 30 people. But at the last session, we had like 10, I think, that actually were able to attend. So it didn't fill up, but I don't know I can't predict what's going to happen. So if you know that you want a spot, I'd go ahead and save it now. And then if you don't need it, let me know and I can cancel the registration later. Go ahead, Sarah, Lisa. Ed Plan virtual office hours are this Thursday. I'll be sending out the full agenda, but some of the items that we're going to be discussing are summer preparation, Power School rollover, and just getting ready for the next school year as we try to finish this school year. Configuration updates, some changes that'll be happening that aren't development, but we'll be pushing those configuration changes out after we have a majority of the IEPs done and drafted, looking at like a late June, early July for some of those configuration updates that I'll be sharing out. And then some updates on advanced reporting and some more information about caseload administration. So those are some of the more larger topics that we'll be covering on Thursday. I just wanted to put it out there that our last scheduled one, I had sent out a document with all of the office hours for the school year. So our last scheduled one that I had shared with everyone was for that June 26th date. For July, it'll be July 31st, and I'll send more information out about that. But then we're going to move into the third Thursday of each month, excluding December. We won't have an office hours in December. So I'm working with Phil and getting those set up, and I'll do the same thing once I have them all ready to go and meetings created. I'll send out a document with those links, and then I will continue to send out prior to the meeting, the agenda and the meeting information so you have it again. Okay, next slide. Single sign-on. So I know I've been talking about this the last couple of calls about single sign-on, and so moving into those districts. So we have 22 districts that have, as of this morning, have successfully migrated over or integrated with single sign-on for their districts to use single sign-on, to use ClassLink for accessing Ed Plan. And so the state is going to be moving to utilizing ClassLink, which will be called StateLink, for all state procured applications starting in July. So that contract with ClassLink starts in July. This change will require that all users that are included in the state user feed, so not your manually entered ones like your contracted OTs and PTs and school psychs, but those ones that actually come through, will be accessing Ed Plan through ClassLink. And so more information to follow on that. We'll create a rollout plan. I asked that we were able to kind of slow roll this. So it's not like July 1, everyone's going to make that change. We'll do similar to what we did with doing it now, where, we prepared the district, we prepared the staff so that they knew that, when they woke up the next day that they were going to log in somewhere else and how they were going to access that. If you have questions, you can reach out to me, but also communicate and collaborate with your IT staff. I've been told that they are aware of this information. They have this information about going into the state link. And so this is the information I have now and where we're at as we build on this and develop a plan and looking at what districts and when and how this is going to look. I'll be working with those districts individually on that. Next slide is also about single sign-on, because I just want to remind everyone that if you have a local, what they call local district created account. So again, that's like your ones that aren't coming through the user feed. So your contracted staff, they will continue to use the MFA, that multi-factor authentication, where they have to get the code. Once the changeover has happened in ClassLink, they won't be able to use that original link. So those end users, those that are coming through the user feed, that was one thing they thought, oh, we thought we were going to have the option like ClassLink or logging into using MFA on the old link, and that's not the case for that. But then again, I cannot recommend enough that you go in to my account and you update so that you have 2 ways to get into EdPlan, not just that email authentication, but I would also do that text messaging, so you can get the code through your text message and not just your work email. Okay, next slide. Oh, and I didn't catch that. This is supposed to say AR. So advanced reporting, just an update that there are 12 reports total in advanced reporting. There was quite a few reports added on the 7th of May. And so just making sure that you're aware of the reports that are available in advanced reporting. And we are continuing to work on adding more to advanced reporting, and where they are at is in that public folder, in that shared reports. All right, so Elisa, go ahead. And again, if you have any feedback, so if you have suggestions for enhancements in the system, requests for reports to be made in AR. So I look at that list. I tell PCG, can we do this report? Or items that you want to see on the agenda for office hours, there is that link. I do look at that, but it's kind of like when you call your doctor's office to make an appointment and they're like, if this is an emergency, please hang up and call 911. Don't put something that you need me to respond to quickly in here. You still want to do that through email. And like I've said, if it's a real SOS, you know, put a help me in the subject line so it draws my attention to it, so that I can kind of prioritize that if you have a hot issue. But if this is something that you're like, I just have this great idea, that's where you're going to put this information. I just don't want you to put questions in there and then you're waiting for me to respond, and it might be a week before I have a chance to read through all the responses that are in there. So this is something I usually do once a week, sometimes every other week, where I go through all those responses, I look at them, and then I file them when they need to go and respond. So it's not a overnight email back to you. All right, and I think that's everything for me. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. I hope everyone has a good afternoon.
Thanks,
right.
Katie.
Thanks,
And
Katie. Lisa, do you want to keep going or do you want me to take
no,
over? It's up to
you go
ahead.
right ahead. I'm going to stop
right.
sharing and let you take over. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You know what's so great about working here at OSIS is it's always great when you have a team that has your back, and that's what happened today. So thank you, Lisa and
You're
Katie.
muted, Sarah.
I can hear her.
I can.
I can. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
But it's just nice that your team has your back. So thank you very much, Lisa and Katie, for moving along. I hate being late, and boy, I just had some things on these slides that was not cooperating. So Shannon Jones, are you in the audience? Please come down.
I'm here.
Okay, I knew you didn't have a...
everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to remind everyone about CPI. I keep getting a lot of emails about CPI, and we are doing CPI. We are running it concurrently with Summer University. So you can sign up for CPI through the same link that you're using to sign up for your Summer University sessions. It is for both initial and renewal. We would definitely like to get as many initials in as possible because, that spreads it a little further because the initials can go, it's initial training for training the trainers. So if it's if you need to be a trainer at your school. So we do have quite a few more spots for those initials. It is also for renewal. So if you're signing up for that initial, you will sign up for all 3 days and it will take you to a separate link. If you just need renewal, you're just signing up for day 3. And you can sign up for other sessions those first 2 days and you'll just sign up for that renewal for day 3. So we have just a few more spots for renewal, but quite a bit of for initial. So if you got anybody that need to get in with initial or renewal, please sign up through Summer University. The other thing is, please try to limit it to 2 people per district so we can get as many people in as possible. Also, a few people have asked me, are we planning any others? We do have one scheduled for Greenville. For Greenville. We do have one scheduled for later in December. I am just trying to finalize the date and the place. We're looking at between Columbia and Greenville, so we can just spread the love a little bit. So as soon as I finalize that spot, I will start letting you all know about that one. But Summer University, it is for both initial and renewals. Any questions, comments, concerns? Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon. That's great. Okay, whoops, where am I? Next is Michelle. Michelle Williams-Young is here to talk to us about fiscal grants and administration.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. This slide shows the allocations historically for the past 9 years. The state did receive its IDEA allocations last Monday. We were surprised, and I don't know if you can really tell by this chart, but in the past 9 years, we mostly saw increases in our allocation. Of course, there was a little anomaly when we got the ARP funds, and then we didn't get the ARP funds for COVID. But that following year, our allocation went down about $76,000. Well, for this year coming, 25-26, we saw an additional decrease of over $570,000 to the state. So with that, I did want to talk to you a little bit about how we allocate out funds. So Sarah, could you go to the next slide, please? Okay, and so this is just a high-level overview of how the allocations go. Of course, they come to the state, and then we give allocations out to districts. There's a base payment amount, and then of the remaining funds, we allocate out 15% to population, and 85% to population and 15% to poverty. Okay, next slide, please. So with that, you can pretty much expect that your district most districts will see a reduction in their allocation for 25-26. And I am speaking of only the 611. The 619 was funded at exactly the same amount that it has been funded over the last 2 years. So only speaking of 611. So what are some of the factors that will cause your district to see a reduction? Well, as I stated before, last year, there was a decrease of about $76,000. We, as in the state, we reduced the state level and took that hit. So most districts did not see that reduction. Okay, so we are not able to take that at state level this year. As you recall, we pushed through more than 92% of the funds we receive out to districts, and we're just not, with the new PCG system and other things, contracts, we're not able to do that this year. So although some South Carolina's IDA base payment was not the same, the state overall received that reduction of $570,000, which was due to other states being non-compliant and having to make maintenance of fiscal support payments back. And I said other states, but I really meant one state. One state had to pay back a significant amount of funds. So again, although last year and this year, the feds are saying that we did not get a base decrease. We got a little bit more last year because some states owed for that maintenance of fiscal support noncompliance, but no state was found to have that noncompliance last year. So our overall funds got reduced. There was no extra money added to the pot. Okay. Also, your LEA may see a reduction in population, and this is an enrollment, not child count. And remember, enrollment is your district's enrollment plus private school enrollment. So at this point, I do want to stop and say thank you to all of those districts that have assisted in helping the FGM team to get private school numbers, as those do play a part in the district's population and do count towards their allocation. We also saw significant expansion of charter schools this year, which may play a part in that.
Hey, the slides have changed.
Oh, have they? Oh,
Just 1 second.
Oh,
There we
yeah.
go.
okay, yeah. You may see a small decrease related to poverty, because remember, poverty is just 15% of the total allocation. Next slide, please. Okay. Next slide. Perfect. So what is the plan of action? At this point, like I said, we just received the allocation last week. So we're exploring at OSIS the possibility of supplemental funding for those LEAs that experienced a decrease due to South Carolina's allocation decrease, not a reduction in population. Okay, so if you received a reduction because of population, I believe that most of you, if you haven't received it today, by the end of the week, you'll receive your data sheets and you'll see what numbers we have for you for population. And if you have any issues or questions with that, you can reach out to us. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We're looking to see if we can possibly find some supplemental funding to help those districts who experience the decrease because the state received an overall decrease. Okay, and what can you do at the district level? Well, we know things are changing right now in the federal world, so I would advise you to please plan ahead for future IDA reductions or just straight up level funding. Okay, which means that we'll just continue to get about. And although, like I said, the Fed said that there were no real reductions in the allocations, the state of South Carolina did see that, and some other states did see that. And I would also say, just remember to expend your older IDA funds before expending new ones, because what we're seeing is districts are leaving funds on the table because they forget that they have funds, IDA funds in an older grant, and they are not expending them. Okay. So just a few important reminders. The deadline is for your phase 1 application, which is your terms, assurances, and conditions, as well as your MOE eligibility calculator, are due to OSIS tomorrow. So if you have not submitted those, please make sure you do. If you have any questions, please reach out to our grants administrator, Fiona Wilson, or myself, and we can help you with that. LEA data sheets are going out this week, so you'll get those, and we expect that you will review those and get those back to us, or notify us if you have any issues. There's nothing to get back. I apologize. But if you look at your data sheet and you have an issue with us, with the data sheet, please reach out to us no later than June 6th, because we will be doing allocations at that time with those numbers. And if you don't have any issues with it, we're going to assume, if we don't hear from you, that everything is okay. We'll also distribute the LEA self-assessment in late May. That is for fiscal monitoring, so be on the lookout for that. The deadline for the submission of that self-assessment is June 16th. On July 10th, please mark your calendars. We'll be hosting an IDEA application webinar. Okay, then we'll distribute the phase 2 applications in late July. And of course, they'll be due back in mid-August. Okay. Next slide, please. And this is just a reminder of the FGM team, who does what and how you can reach out to us. So I did see a few questions in the chat, so I will
Right.
jump.
Thank you. I was just going to read them to you, Michelle.
Oh,
Do you want me to?
please go.
You want me
Yes,
to grab them?
please.
Okay.
Yes,
One
please.
person
Yeah.
asked, what happens to the funds that are not expended from unfilled positions at OSIS?
So with those funds, we do budget out, and those are just used in either mostly used in contractual. I just have to say that our contractual budget is heavy. And so there are some positions that I don't think Peter is going to fill, but I'm going to turn it over to him to respond to personnel.
Yeah,
Questions. I
mean,
think I'm out of my lane with that.
no, I mean, the bottom line, Wendy, before we got to the ones is, so we're looking at all sources that we have to provide a supplemental to make up any differences in it. So we expected, when the federal government said level funding, that we would get the exact same amount as the state that we got before. But they did short us a little bit this year because of some funding that wasn't collected. So we're looking to other sources to try to make up for those districts who would see a decrease that wasn't due to a population decrease. And so we look to all sources from that. So it could be we don't, obviously we don't have that many unfilled positions at OSIS. I think we have 2 posted right now. So we don't have a whole lot. It wouldn't make up $560 some $1,000. So but we are looking to do that. The only caveat, and we'll give you more information later, is that some of the funds that we might be able to disperse as supplemental might not have the full time frame as yours for expenditure. Right, Michelle? It might be
Yes.
a slightly shorter time frame because we have to pull it from a different budget year.
Yeah.
If the federal government continues to kind of decrease in the allocation provided to the state, obviously we wouldn't be able to do that in future years because we're using what we have from the current year to fund forward, so that there would be nothing left to do that. So we're just kind of preparing you that we don't know. We're certainly hoping that the federal government keeps it level. There's been some talk of that, but with we hear different news just like you do every year. And yeah, level funding is it can be a cut because of cost increases from year to year. That's absolutely true. So we're just hoping, we're keeping our fingers crossed. I mean, we wanted to report this to you guys as soon as we heard about it. So a level doesn't accommodate for cost increases. That's absolutely true. So we're just hoping that the federal government will maybe there'll be a sea change. They tend to change from time to time, and they'll increase the amount of IDA spending. But this is what we have for this year. So like I said, we're looking at all available sources to come up with supplemental funding to help districts.
Thank you, Peter. Another question was, who will get the data sheets?
Okay, so we use the DEAM system, DEIMS system. We go in and we send it to the special ed contacts that are in the DEAM system. Okay. Talked
Yeah,
about
please
level.
make sure you update your district's
Yes.
DEAM system.
Yes, please. And the last one is, if districts receive additional funding due to private school students being included as part of the child find count, should money go to the private school?
Okay, so this is not a new formula. As a part of the population count, districts, private schools have always been included in that. But in terms of money going to private schools, no IDA funds should go to the private school directly. It should be used for providing services to those students. So I hope that answered your question, Leah. Okay, perfect. And if you guys think of any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me or any of the other members of the FGM team. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Mhm.
That worked out great. Okay, Peter, you are up. Overview of the SCASA presentation.
Yes, so I was just going to let the directors know, let you guys know about some invited presentations that we have coming up, and just some of the things that we're talking to folks about. I mean, we occasionally from time to time get opportunities to reach out to some of the other parts of education other than special education, reaching school site administrators or possibly some district administrators. And one that's coming up is on June 17th, is at the SCASA I3 Institute that's put on by SCASA, obviously. And so there's a presentation there and just talking about a little bit about some of the tools in EdPlan, using high quality instructional materials and other resources to do that. So I'm just going to not give the presentation, but just to go through some of the slides in order to give you guys an idea for the types of things we'll be covering, in case some of your district administrators come back and say, hey, I had this presentation and here's what they talked about. Right. So one thing is to, schools to be aware, and I know that, this audience, knows this for sure, is just if you look at our data for our students with disabilities, we're seeing a fairly wide gap between students with disabilities and their non-disabled peers. And in particular, we seem to be underperforming when it comes to students with disabilities as compared to national data. So I'll be running through some NAEP data and also some SC Ready data just to highlight some of these discrepancies and the need to really focus on it. And it really answers the question if you as to why we have so many schools that are on ATSI status because of the subgroup of students with disabilities. If you look at it overall from the state. Also talking a little bit about suspension data, which I've shared with you guys before. That the suspension data that if we look across years as far as students with disabilities and the kind of unsettling trend that it seems to be increasing the amount of in-school and out-of-school suspensions for students with disabilities, when we really need to be working as a state to decrease that type of exclusionary time. Also, to highlight a few teacher survey data questions that we've been asking, particularly around the question of collaboration between general ed teachers and special ed teachers, just to say that there's a good portion of our teaching population that say that they really get little to no time to do that type of collaboration, which is pretty essential to making sure that our special ed students are succeeding and improving their outcomes. And then just some basic tips for improving special education programs. Some of these are easy, no cost type things that if they're put as an area of focus for the school, they'll lead to improvement. And then some pointing out some data tools that we have now, both within EdPlan and the new GPS system that will be launched statewide that has a series of data tools. It's already available in most districts in parts, but it's being built up, and talk about that. So if we go to the next slide. So that poses the question just to ask, why do we see so many ATSI schools for the subgroup of students with disabilities? And if you look at the national data, next slide, please. I'll be doing a couple slides. I use the NAEP data tool to create a few charts and graphs that I'll go over, but this one summarizes it. If you look, these are students with disabilities compared to the national average of students with disabilities. So we're significantly below if you look at the percent of basic and above on NAEP, which is a national assessment, obviously the nation's report card. And so we're underperforming when compared nationally. And this is not true of our general ed students, particularly for fourth grade ELA. We're pretty much at the national average, but not for our students with disabilities. So there is a bigger gap between between students with disabilities and non-disabled students when it comes to South Carolina as compared to some of our other states. So next slide, please. And this one is for mathematics, also seeing that our students with disabilities are underperforming when compared to the national average for percentage of basic and above. Next slide, please. And then for ELA, this is SC Ready. We also see that there's been some gains if you look post COVID in fourth grade and eighth grade ELA in the meets or exceeds getting increased over time, but the increases in the gains that we've seen have been more significant for non-disabled students than students with disabilities. So we've seen a flatter line, which is a trend we want to reverse. We'd like to see, obviously, our increases for students with disabilities match that at least, or not, hopefully exceed someday the gains that we see for non-disabled peers. And here's the suspension data. Like I said, this data we provided to you at fall admin as well, but we've seen this unsettling trend of students with disabilities being excluded from instruction at a greater rate, up to out-of-school suspensions for 23-24 up to 17.6%. So, I mean, we'll see how it turns out for 24-25. Hopefully that trend starts to reverse. But we're just seeing that as being more problematic. And you know, you guys know that as a state, we've tried to set a goal of getting this into single digits for the percentage of students who get with disabilities who get suspended in a given school year, and bringing that down from 17.6%. And when we started this endeavor and really started looking at this data closely, we were at about 16%, and then we're hoping for it to trend down, like I said, into single digits. But instead, it's trended the other way, going up to 17.6% as the state rate for it. And also, we haven't seen a decrease in in-school suspensions either. It's kind of stayed above 14%. So that is a hope of the future. So another point is just, you can go to the next slide, is that we do ask some questions, and you guys can look at this slide on your time, but they basically relate to collaboration. And we're seeing that at least a third of teachers are saying that they don't get sufficient planning and collaboration time with their general ed peers. So this is on the general ed survey. We do survey them, and this was over the course of, it's separated into 2 years. So this was as part of our program reviews. So this wouldn't be of the entire state, but we do, as you know, we do a 6-year cycle. So in 2 years, we cover about a third of the state. So this would be about a third of the districts in the state, their teachers responding. And we've gotten some pretty good response rates from both general ed and special ed teachers in our surveys in the last couple of years. So it's a significant number of teachers. I think it's over 1,000 responses that we've received between over the course of a couple of years. So so like I said, there's still the good news is that there are a majority reporting that they do get some collaboration time, but we get at least a third doing it. And then the next 2 slides, if you can go to those. I guess it skipped over, but I also have information from if you go back.
You want me to go back farther? Okay.
Go back. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No. Keep going forward. I guess
I'm sorry.
the slide popped out. That's okay. There's other slides. We have 2 slides that have special ed teachers. So the special ed teachers were about the same. Sometimes a little bit more, up to as much as 40% saying they don't get sufficient collaboration time with their gen ed teacher peers. And the gen ed teachers said similar things. The percentages were about the same. So as far as the best practice tips that we intend to discuss with those who are attending SCASA, and those are basically 3 things. They're no cost, just a focus of schools to really look at it, is to make sure that the supplemental specialized instruction that's being provided complements and supports the gen ed instruction, that it shouldn't be disconnected. It shouldn't supplant it unless that's the intention, and that's what's put in the IEP, which is in the minority of the students that we have. The majority of our students are receiving supplemental instruction, and it should be that complements and supports that gen ed instruction, so that the students getting additional repetition, additional opportunities to practice, and explicit instruction in a smaller setting. So, but that's complementary to that they receive in the gen ed classroom. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir here, but that is something that sometimes schools don't make sure that they make sure is happening in that instruction, and it can be at times contradictory from the times that we've looked out there at the schools, and it's not supplementing that. The other is to promote and facilitate planning and collaboration among general education and special education teachers. That is the best practice, and if that collaboration goes on, it just makes the instruction so much stronger, so that the special education teacher is informed of what's going on in general education and vice versa, and knows the student's strengths and weaknesses, and that they talk about it regularly, so they can address those discrepancies and gaps in learning that are causing the student to not keep up with their non-disabled peers. And so that collaboration is essential. And we'll talk about a few basic things that can be done and emphasis that can be made at the school site level to ensure that planning and collaboration takes place. From something as simple as when you start your master scheduling, you start with special ed because it's the most complex, and because you should be looking out to make sure that there's that overlap, and making sure that your professional learning includes both general ed and special ed teachers if possible. The other one is just making it a school goal to reduce the number of times that students are removed from instruction. We know that if they're not in instruction, there's no way that they could be learning. So if we can reduce the amount of in-school and out-of-school suspensions for students with disabilities, we would have a much greater chance of improving their academic outcomes. And when there can be a way of establishing a school culture that supports this goal. All right. And then to talk about a few instructional resources. So Abby, if you want to take this part.
Yeah, I will. Thanks, Peter. I'll take the next couple of slides. You heard Peter say at the top of this call that we've been working hard at the state agency to really provide aligned support out to the field and do some cross-office collaboration and make sure that our communication is tight, so you and your school level leaders are hearing similar messages. So a couple weeks ago, Peter and I and some of his team members were invited to present to the Federal and State Accountability Roundtable. So that was a newer audience. And if you've attended any of the ATSI support sessions that have been held around the state, you'll see that the Office of Leadership Effectiveness has been working closely with OSIS and planning some presentations and some materials support together. So what we wanted to do in this middle chunk of the presentation that we plan to share in June is bring in the instruction materials. Our Office of Instructional Materials, oversee, of course, the textbook adoption, and math is rolling out next year, and ELA is wrapping up year one. But the Instruction Hub is another place where a lot of our resources live. And so we plan to take the school level leaders that attend our session through their access to the Instruction Hub, because this is a place for all teachers, your special education teachers also, to access the tier 1, the core instructional materials that will be used in ELA and math classrooms. So we will have some information here on how they will access the login. Luckily, with the single sign-on moving forward after July, the ClassLink or Clever sign-in makes it really simple for everyone. Next slide, please. And so we will just demo. We hope to be able to do this live, but if you've ever attended SCASA, sometimes the Wi-Fi can be spotty, so we will have the static slides you see here, but ideally we will be able to take people into the Instruction Hub and show them what is available, including, next slide, please.
I'm getting there, Abby.
I know, thank you.
Has it
Jenny, all
switched
those
now? All the
graphics
arrows.
take just a second. Yeah, yes,
that's all
thank
right.
you. And so the static slides will just demo. We just pulled Wonders as one of the ELA curricula to share. But of course, whichever publisher is adopted by the district would be what is housed in their unique login, but we want to be able to pull out the areas and highlight where within the core curriculum, there are tips and tools for differentiation and for reaching the diverse needs of students in the classroom. And so we will be able to pull that out and help school leaders see where they will be able to point their teachers in their planning to meet all of the students in their classroom. And then the final slide I'm going to take us through is just the contact information for our two colleagues who are overseeing the Instruction Hub, and they will also be presenting that day a little bit later. I think, Peter, our session is at 8:30 in the morning, so we'll get the early birds, but we'll be able to direct interested school and district leaders to the iHub session that'll be at June 17th at 11:15. So they will be able to learn even more from Paige and Nicole, who work so closely with the iHub.
Thank
And
you,
I think
Abby.
yes,
Go ahead.
absolutely.
I think.
Yep. And then there's some a few other data tools that we'll be sharing. One is the Ed Plan SC dashboard, particularly for school site administrators, it's slightly different than what you guys see, obviously, as power users and as special ed directors. So we'll talk to them about a few things and how they can dive deeper in some of the reports that are available. We'll also make the point that Enrich has. The dashboard is very similar in that you can in either application, you can actually look at and do a deeper dive into your students and see who's at your school site and so forth. And there are some standard reports. We had a lot of reports on the Enrich Hub before. We're developing reports, as Katie shared, some that will be available to you guys. Some of those reports, the BIP report, Behavior Intervention Plan report, we are going to be making that a standard report. That'll probably be in the October release. So by doing that, we make that available to school site administrators as well. But they do have the upcoming meeting reports, and they have some other standard reports. We'll also take them through a little bit of the GPS dashboards, which has attendance, daily attendance. It has discipline, our behavior, and it also has assessment data. And there is an easy way on the GPS within those programs to isolate for students with IEPs. So we'll be showing them how to do that as well. And that may be, I think, if you guys want, we can try to pull in some of our IT folks here, Wyatt and his folks, to talk to you guys about the GPS dashboards, as those are being unveiled are being beefed up for next school year. And it's kind of a combination between, you might have seen it as Podium and Rally. Those applications, they're merging it under as one kind of common set of dashboards under GPS as well. So that would be something we could present on in the future. So and then I just gave the links to the various where I pulled the SE Ready data and the NAEP data as well. Next slide, I think. So this is just a showing of the Ed Plan dashboard, but we're gonna, like Abby said, if we get proper Wi-Fi, we'll actually dive into the dashboard a little bit for Ed Plan SC. And then we will provide GPS information for and the contacts at the department. Usually the districts, though, set up the users in the system just like you would for Ed Plan. So your district sets up, your IT department would set up the access to the GPS system. Next slide. And this is just a way to look at it. It gives an example of a profile page. This one is for enrollment. Next slide. And then there is a filter back, just go back one. So this is just showing them once again that they can filter for students who have special education status of yes. So those are students with IEPs. You can filter if you want to look specifically at your school site for absenteeism, discipline, or assessment for that subgroup.
Now the next slide.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so that was all you had for that topic. Your next one was the course codes and weighting memo, which I have not sent out yet.
Okay, so we did send out through the regular memo release from the department a memo on special ed codes and course weighting, and Sarah will be sending out today that memo. So it just got released today. Some of you had already kind of gotten wind of this. Basically, you'll be able to weight the courses like you did in the past. That was something that caused some concern in the field. For this upcoming school year, you'll be able to do it based on your past practices as far as whether you provided weight for that class. Over the coming next year, we intend to adopt some criteria and some guidance that would, for districts, that if they intend to use it as a weight-bearing course for academic seminar, that they would have just a series of things to look for to make sure that those are in place for those courses. But you'll be getting more information on that later. But the main crux of the memo is that there will be a option. There's a 0 option and a C option for course weighting that's available, and districts can choose to select the course weighting according to, like I said, past practices. So however you've been doing it in the past. And there appears to be a question, does EdPlan data feed into this? I'm sorry, I don't remember when, in context of when that question was asked. So I don't know, Wendy, if you can clarify that.
Oh, Podium.
Does Podium? No, it does not feed into EdPlan. There is some, Katie might be able to speak to some of the assessment data that goes in, but Podium would have both formative and summative assessment. And I'm not sure. I know that not all the data fields feed in at the current time, but there is some looking at whether we can create a greater interface between the two.
That's right, Peter. They're working on it. They're working on putting in some assessments and doing all those things, but there's nothing concrete yet.
Yeah, so we're working on it because we built these two systems kind of simultaneously. So getting them to talk is part of the challenge, but we are working on trying to provide more interaction between those two systems.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I don't see any other questions in the chat, so we'll move on to Jenny. Oh, sorry, excuse me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought it was Jenny speaking, but it was not. It was Sarah. If I could just very quickly put a plug in for the memos that are released. Yep. We mentioned earlier that it's really important that your district and entity information management system is up to date and you are identified as the special education coordinator to get those communications. But memos are always archived on the State Department's website, either Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. And so I know when I was still living my district life, I actually booked myself 30 minutes every Wednesday morning to look at the State Department archived memos section. It's right on the main page, and just read everything that went out. Because every memo that goes out, if it goes to supers, if it goes to school principals, if it goes to special ed coordinators, they are all posted there. And so that was a really great tip, a great way for me to keep track of what was going on in the state. So whenever I have an audience of district leaders, I like to put that little plug in. Thank you, ladies.
Yeah, thank you, Abby. Okay, Jenny Dillon and LaToya Wiley, I owe you an apology. I got a little confused about, well, just
No
confused.
worries.
You know me. So LaToya, I will update the slides after this, but Jenny, you said you're going to just go ahead and take the screen, and or do you want me to use the, okay.
I'm sharing, and I'm just going to share this one slide because really a lot of what was shared by Abby just a moment ago went into my presentation. So LaToya and I are working with Joey Green and the Olay group from the Office of Leadership Effectiveness under Kim Mack. And we are meeting, this is round 2 of the ATSI work groups. So we're meeting with district level staff, building level administrators, building level coaches, state level coaches, and teachers. We even had some teachers in there both days. Today was day 2, and great turnout, great interplay and connecting, and it's been really good. So my presentation is about the importance of using high quality instructional materials. And like Abby was showing, I also take them through how to get there, physically on the site. How do we get to the instructional hub? What do we see once we get there, and what resources are there? So there are a lot of tools that teachers can use, including, anchor charts that we can put up in special education classrooms so that you have that consistency from one setting to the next, and worksheets and other strategies that are being taught that we can use in both settings, so that, again, we're having that consistency from one place to the next, which is increased repetition, increased practice. So that is one of the main reasons, is that consistency of terminology and strategies, repetition and opportunity for practice. And then I talk a little bit about collaboration and how to increase that collaboration among teachers so that we are really maximizing our potential with our kids. And really, that's about it. We're going to put a link to the Padlet in the chat, or possibly give it to Sarah to upload to the hub, so that you can see everything that is being provided. And please come out. There are 4, possibly 5 more regional work group sessions for round 2 of the ATSI sessions. So we'll find that information and drop that in the chat as well. So if you're interested in attending, we'd love to have you. And also, just let me put in a plug. Joey Green is doing a session on scheduling that is fantastic as well. There are a lot of good things going on, and there is a session on acceleration and versus remediation of students. So a lot of good stuff. Hope you can join us.
There was a question on Sherry of who the specific people in the district who the information was shared with.
The information was shared with district teams. So everything from district staff to the classroom staff, anybody who showed up to these work groups.
And Sherry, in case you were asking about the SCASA one, obviously it would be, those in attendance at SCASA I3 that choose that breakout session. So we wouldn't know exactly the demographics of that, but
You should come off.
Sherry wants to come off mute, so I don't know who's
Okay.
got.
Yep.
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. No, I meant, like, how did people know that this meeting was happening? Because I, as a special ed director, didn't know anything about the ATSI, and I would have loved to have attended, because many, it's our kids, and sometimes people do not connect the dots, and that ATSI special ed directors should be invited. So that was my question.
And Sherry, we are in Charleston today. So
That would have been great. I
and
could have come.
we have folks from your district here. So I am not sure why you didn't get the memo, but I'm going to talk to Joey today, and we
That would
will
be great.
try to
Thank
make
you.
that. But you are welcome. I hate to make you travel, but we do have a few more on the list, and maybe you can come to another session so that you'll at least get the information. I'm going to pass it over to LaToya,
Great.
who's going to tell you a little bit about her session.
Thank you, Jenny.
Good afternoon, everybody. I won't take too much of your time. I'm going to share my screen right quick. My session is really built on meaningful IEP implementation and providing strategies for what are we looking for when we say meaningful IEP implementation, and what should our administrators and coaches look for in supporting those teams. And so the 4 big things that we're really spending our time talking about during the ATSI trainings is what does that look like? What are the components of meaningful standards aligned IEPs? What strategies can they use for effective instructional observations in the SPED context? And we're talking about, when I go into a classroom and I'm looking to see if that IEP is being implemented, what does that look like? What should I be looking for? And then approaches that they can use to foster that SPED and Gen Ed collaboration. We're spending the bulk of our time talking about that. And we're walking through multiple ways that they can consider providing supports for that collaboration to really take place. And then we're going back and following up on high quality instructional material implementation. So my entire session is built on implementation and collaboration. And we have a couple of documents that we've shared with the teams just to kind of give them points to consider and opportunities for them to increase their coaching conversations. And so all of our information is shared in that Padlet that has been placed in the chat. And I shared it with Sarah, and she'll place it in our LEA folders as well. Thank you.
Hey, you ladies are fast. Thank you so much, LaToya. So let's see, let me get myself reset here, include sound, share the screen. Okay, was it Carrie? No, not Carrie. Michelle, Melissa Griffin, are you here to share the the Skippy?
I am. So I just wanted to share about our call for proposals being extended for our Early Childhood Inclusion Conference. It will be held on September 25th in Columbia at R2I2, and we have extended the call for proposals until May 30th. So we would love to have some district representation, some OSIS representation. So I wanted to share that with you all. And the early bird registration will be opening in mid-June. Another exciting thing that we have in relation to our conference is our brand new Growing Strong District Distinction Award. And so this is going to celebrate districts who've demonstrated commitment and passion for building strong foundations to improve outcomes for young children and families. So we want to recognize those districts that are making progress and showing dedication to providing utilizing evidence-based practices and increasing inclusion. And so we're accepting nominations for that. So if you feel like your school district is doing a great job, or you know of another district that's doing a great job, please feel free to use the QR code or click on the link to nominate them. We can go to the next. Just a reminder about Champions. Registration is still open for that, and that'll be Friday, June 6th at Midlands Tech in West Columbia. And it's going to talk about the strategies to prevent suspension and expulsion in early childhood settings. So we hope to see you there. The next slide. Okay, and then also just a reminder about Summer University. We will be there with our pyramid model team for pyramid model implementation exploration resources from 9 to 12 on the 10th. And then also the core pre-planning will be held 1 to 4. So this is the link that you can sign up for that. And also at Summer University, we will have the new early childhood performance factor session from 9 to 12. And positive strategies for the preschool classroom from 1 to 4. So just a reminder to sign up for those as well.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Melissa. So, excuse me. I'm just, Deanna and Susan asked me to just please share this slide. And I meant to add on here the last date for registration is, I believe they said May 30th. I will put that out in an email to you, but I do believe it's May 30th. So please make sure you get yourself registered. And OSIS people, I'll be sending an email to you that says you can now start registering. We always ask the OSIS people to wait until all the districts have had their chance first, but OSIS can, now that we just have 10 days left for registration. Here's just as a reminder what OSIS shared with us last time, and that'll be there. And Behavior Alliance knew that, whoops. Oh, are you kidding me? Hang on just a moment, please. Copy. All right, so I don't know. Could one of my tech friends?
While you're fixing that, I'm going to share my screen real quick. We've been getting a lot of questions about LEA profiles and determinations, and Elizabeth Moore wanted to take a minute and kind of give you an update. So while you're doing that, Sarah, I'll let Libba give us an update.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon, everybody. Just real quickly, the fiscal year 23 final profiles and determinations, as well as those proposed determinations with that early childhood performance factor we've been talking about, are now available in ADT. You received notice of that already. We will be sending out your emails that kind of give your next steps and due dates for the required actions based on your individual tiers soon. We are tweaking that system a little bit based on feedback we've gotten over the past couple of years. So you will be getting your emails very soon. You will get it based on the tier that you are in so that it has your very specific next steps and then the dates that you need to be aware of based on that tier. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me as always. I know some folks have been emailing me to ask when we would be getting the blank leaders and when those would be due. It's all coming really soon. We just wanted to make sure we made a couple more tweaks before we got it out and that you had time to get your final determinations and look at those before you had to actually do anything. So look for that email soon and you'll know what's happening next. Thank you.
Yeah, just to reiterate, we always shoot for June 1st is actually the dates to put up the profiles and determinations. So we're a little bit ahead of the game. Great kudos to Carolyn's team and Liva for getting those out early. So, and then I always want to make this point because, you know, people see fiscal year 2023. FY 2023 is the 23-24 school year. So that is the most current full year of data that we have. So, you know, sometimes it seems like we do lag a little bit, but we don't lag that much. It's nowhere near the ARC, the annual report to Congress, which is lagged by about 2.5 years to the data. So that is 23-24. And like I said, we're collecting some of the data for 24-25 right now, obviously, because we're finishing up that school year. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Peter. And I'm going to share my,
Awesome.
okay, thanks. Share my screen with sound. So Basque was not new. They weren't able to join us today. So they made, let's see if I get it right. Nope. They made a little video of their slides so that they could still include sound. Here we go. If somebody would just give me a thumbs up or down, if you can hear the sound. Of course, I have to push play, don't I?
And welcome to the Behavior Alliance of South
Good to go.
Carolina's monthly updates.
Thank you.
These are for the month of May. So first, we're going to go over some of the topics you'll find in our May monthly newsletter. First, we have the SC Teams Summer University 2025. This registration is now open and it closes May 30th, so make sure to register for that. Then we have an evidence-based practice to support positive school climate, and that one for this month is direct instruction. Then we have a spotlight of 2 staff members from the Charleston County School District, as well as a resource spotlight on teacher-delivered behavioral interventions in grades K through 5. To join our mailing list, you can scan the QR code or go to the link at the bottom of this page. Then we have some upcoming events. Starting in June, we have the SC Team Summer University in Columbia, South Carolina. Then we have a webinar that's virtual and it's about beating teacher burnout, using the summer to recharge. Then there is the Innovative Ideas Institute in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, as well as the Leading Without Limits conference in San Antonio, Texas, with virtual options. Then we'd like to offer some resources for the month of May. We have a new self-paced module on feedback and acknowledgement, and this, as well as the rest of our asynchronous modules, are available if you click the link in this slide. And then we also have the practice guide that was featured in our newsletter. That is teacher-delivered behavioral interventions in grades K through 5. So that's it for the month of May. We'll see you next month. Hope everybody has a good month.
All right. And let's see, close that out. And I think we are just about at the end. So our next information session will be June 3rd, which is of course the first Tuesday in June. And we hope to see you all at 3 o'clock that time. If you have any questions, I know some of you have asked me about the meeting we had 2 weeks ago. And yes, I was out due to illness, and I will get that onto the Google folder momentarily. So thank you for your interest. Let me check the Ashley Phillips. Philip, are you still on the call? Jenny, did you see the last?
I'm here.
Oh, you are. Okay. What directors, who did you mean by share with the directors?
Sorry, I'm just saying that I was responding to somebody else asking about sharing that with us as well, because I didn't get that information, and we were saying we would really have liked to have had that.
Gotcha. Okay, I understand now. Thank you.
Yeah, Ashley, we'll check with our other folks here in the agency and just about the distribution. So it comes up a decent amount where the distribution chain, but we'll make a point of it, definitely.
Karen Whitlock, I'm sorry you're having that experience. It is tough sometimes. All right. Well, everybody, that is the end of our meeting. I will get this recording captioned and back to you in your folder as soon as possible. It usually takes a week to 10 days. And the PowerPoint will be there. I have a couple of edits I need to make, so it probably will be tomorrow before it gets onto your Google folder so that I make sure everything is as it should be. So thank you for your time. And I apologize, we went a little over time today, but thank you for everything you do. Have a good night. Ashley Phillip, are you still on the call? If you are, would you mind?
Yes.
Great. Would you? Yeah, you're unmuted and you can turn your camera on if you want to.
It's
But
okay. I just
what do you mean by that?
Looking through that Padlet that Latoya had posted, and it there were some professional learning opportunities around IEP development and some other things. And I was I'm just having a hard time navigating the Padlet. Is that information available somewhere else?
Latoya, are you still on the call? She might not be, Ashley, so I will get that information for you. Okay. Is it that it's blocked by your district or?
Well, it's not. It's just these, if you go to that Padlet, there's these like really narrow columns, and I'm trying to read about the sessions, but it says the Office of Special Education Services is having a general session on PLCs, scheduling, IEP implementation, and it looks like there's a form, but there's just not really sufficient information. I was just trying to see what that was exactly, and if that's something that might be useful to people in my district. Because it looks like there's some that might be already passed and some that are coming up.
Oh, I see. So I don't know, I haven't looked at that Padlet yet, but in case you're not familiar with Padlet, they do like chop things down. And so you can, if you click on them, they'll open, or you can even double click and it'll, hang on, let me say that again. You click on it once and it sort of opens it a little more, but if you double click on it, it opens it full screen, and then you can even download it for yourself, unless Padlet has changed something since I've used it a few years ago. And so then you can see the whole thing, because we've uploaded like multi-page articles before, and all you see is, you know, the first few paragraphs. So I'm guessing that's what's up with that, but I will get in touch with Latoya.
Operator error with that, so thank you. Okay. I just mostly wanted to get the information about those professional learning opportunities, and was wondering if I had that and overlooked it.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind trying to open that now. So if you can do it, then I won't send that message over to Latoya. But if you're still having trouble with it, I will get in touch with Latoya to help you with that.
I can open it, and it's taking me to a form. But but it's expanding the page, but it's the same information. I guess I'm just wondering if there's some more information that I can access.
Okay, I'll have LaToya give you a call or
Okay.
email. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Sarah.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Let's see. I think all we have are note takers left on on the call. Oh, except Paula. Hey, Paula. And who else? Heather.